Just before this episode, here's how you can get more from Never a Truer Word. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you can subscribe to this channel to get early access to the weekly analysis episodes, video episodes so you can see the statements as I analyse them, and exclusive content too. And if you're here on YouTube, then become a member of the channel to get early access to everything and exclusive content not available anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this episode is going to deal with the murder of Madeline Soto, and especially Madeline's mum, Jenn Soto. I've had lots of requests to look at the words of Jenn to see whether, I think by looking at those words, is she innocent of all involvement, or is she actually in the thick of this murder and the cover-up that followed it? Now, Jennifer's boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, he's been charged with the murder of 13-year-old Madeline and a whole load of other horrible charges as well. If you're at all triggered by things like that, please be assured this episode is not going to deal with those allegations that are made around Stephan Sterns. I think it's well documented what a piece of crap he is. We're going to look at the words of Jenn, and we're going to look at her in a police... Well, look, it's an interrogation. It's in the middle of the murder inquiry. Stephan has been arrested, and they want Jenn to help them find out what happened to Madeline and also where Madeline is. So what are her words going to reveal as she speaks to these guys in a high pressure situation? It's something we don't get the chance to see often. We're right at the heart of a missing person operation. Now, the pressure is on Jenn to help here. They put a lot of pressure on her, so her words are going to be very revealing, and that's what we look at in this channel. We look at the words that someone uses. I think in the middle of this, there is a huge tell as to whether Jenn is involved or whether she's entirely innocent. There are several possibilities at play here. Jenn could be completely unaware of anything that was going on, unaware of the murder, unaware of the cover-up too, either through denial, stupidity, or just sheer naivety as well. She could be involved in it. She could have helped, she could have abetted, she could have aided. We'll see if the words suggest that. Or Jenn could be another victim of Stephan Sterns. It could be that she is a victim of circumstances and a victim of a really horrible person here. That's what we're going to try and find out. What do we think is possible? What is most possible as we listen to the words that Jenn uses in this police interrogation. I always want to give you some tips of things to listen out for. So during this, listen out for contradictions. Does Jenn say one thing and then say something that completely contradicts that? Have a listen. I think you will see some things like that. But what are they about? Why are these contradictions happening? Look at where Jenn's focus is as well. What's her focus on? Is it on helping the police? Is it on getting some respite for her daughter? Or is it on something else? I think we will see that come through in this interview as well. And watch for leaks and slips. The pressure is really on, and that's when we may talk and say something that we didn't mean to, the truth out, because there's a lot of pressure on. We're doing a lot of thinking, and sometimes words will come out that we didn't quite mean to come out. Leaks and slips, look out for those as well. So let's go into that police interrogation. And the first thing the police want to talk to Jenn about is inconsistencies between her police statement and one of her media appearances.
And a lot of things I've kind of researched between the Fox 35 story, between your initial statement to the police. A lot of things have changed. The initial statement to the police was you watched her get dressed, you watched her leave, you knew exactly what she was wearing.
Can I tell you
Absolutely.
my thought process on that, or where I came from with that? I was handed this form, and I'm like, where do I start? What do I write? And somebody said, tell them what you saw. And so I started with I saw. And then I wrote out what I wrote out. But it wasn't until later I was like, wait, I didn't see her. I assumed that I saw her. I assumed that I heard her. But I didn't. In reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him. And I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know who that was.
So right away, Got a lot to worry about here. She's asked about these discrepancies, the discrepancies between the Fox 35 story and the initial statements to the police. And she says, Can I tell you my thought processes or where I came from with that? So right out the bat, she's talking about her thought processes. So her response to this, there are discrepancies between your statements. She doesn't say, can I tell you why that happened? She doesn't say, let me clear that up for you. Let me say why this went on. She says, I'm going to talk you through my thought processes or where I came from with that. So one of the two things here, she's either going to give us the thought processes or where I came from with that. So straight away, I'm saying, what is going on here? Why isn't she just saying it straight and saying why these discrepancies happened? Why is she going to set the story, set the scene and say, look, to answer that, I've got to give you my thought processes or where I came from with that. That was the first red flag for me. And then there are so many here. See if you can spot some. I was handed this form and I'm like, where do I start? What do I write? And somebody said, tell them what you saw. And so I started with what I saw and then I wrote out what I wrote out. But it wasn't until later I was like, wait, I didn't see her. I assumed I saw her. I assumed that I heard her, but I didn't. In reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him and I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know who that was. That is wall-to-wall red flags for me. So when she's talking about why there's discrepancy between what she said in the media and what she told the police, I got so many red flags. And we have to ask, why so many red flags? Why so many data points that something is going on here? Let's look through some of those red flags. Very passive. I was handed this form and somebody said, tell them what you saw. So this is her being passive and almost taking the blame away from herself if you look at it. I was handed this form, so it wasn't me. Someone gave me a form and somebody said, tell them what you saw. So she's putting the blame here and all the actions here are somebody else's that instigated this. It's somebody who handed her the form and this somebody said. By the way, she says she was handed this form. Now, it doesn't take a genius to say, what is a form? What is a form? A form is a bit of paper or these days maybe a screen where there are boxes. And inside those boxes, it tells you what it is they require from you. So it may be, tell us about the events you experienced. Tell us what happened. Tell us what you know. What's your name? What's your date of birth? That's what a form is. So why, when you get a form which has all these instructions on them of what it is that you need to do and your daughter is missing, should be desperately wanting a resolution and to help the investigation, why do you go, where do I start and what do I write? You start where they ask you to start and you write what they want you to write. Who's this somebody? Somebody said, tell them what you saw. Is that somebody Stephan? Is she wanting to hide there an interaction with Stephan because Stephan has been arrested at this point and she does not want to be joined to Stephan in any way? So was it Stephan who said, tell them what you saw? Somebody said, tell them what you saw. I mean, that is just, tell them what you, of course you're going to tell them what you saw, but also tell them what you experienced. And she said, so I started with, I saw. And then I wrote out what I wrote out. Now, what would we expect here? I started with, I saw, and then I wrote out what I saw. But her explanation for these thought processes, what happened here, her explanation there is, I wrote out what I wrote out. Doesn't cut the mustard, does it? She makes a lot of assumptions. I assumed that I saw her. I assumed that I heard her. Now, we have to take her at face value here. Why? She doesn't explain why it was only an assumption that she saw her and only an assumption that she heard her. This is a mother talking about what will turn out to be the last time that she saw or experienced her daughter, the person that's been her daughter for 13 years. And yet she has no recollection of that time at all. In her words, she just assumed that she saw her and assumed that she heard her. Then she says, in reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him and I heard something in the kitchen. This is an interesting passage. I kind of believe that in reality, I didn't see her. I believe more, maybe in reality, I didn't experience her, as in Madeline wasn't alive and getting ready for school as would happen on a normal day. In reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him and heard something in the kitchen. Now, this doesn't match up. I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know who that was. So it starts off talking about a thing and finishes off talking about a person. I heard something in the kitchen. I didn't know what that was. What that was would be more natural English. Or I heard someone in the kitchen, but I didn't know who that was. Those two would match. But she heard something in the kitchen and she didn't know who that was. She refers to Stephan Sterns as him here. Now, is that an attempt to distance herself? I think we may have already seen that with this somebody. The somebody that she was closest to on that day at that time was Stephan Sterns. So is that what she is doing there? And is that what she is doing by saying, I only saw him, rather than I only saw Stephan there, I only saw him? Or does it hint at some disgust or disdain towards Stephan? We will see what she thinks of him and how she builds up her relationship to him in this week as the police interview continues.
You don't want to believe he killed her.
I want to believe she's still alive and that she got kidnapped, but that doesn't seem like that's the case at all.
Yeah.
I know, my brain just wants to believe something else. I just want to believe she's still alive, she's out there.
Did he tell you he fucked up?
No. He acted so normal that day. He was like, I'm so impressed. We got out of the house so early. Like, she made great time. We had so much time to go to McDonald's, but she didn't want to. His story was so fun. Like, every detail was so believable. He's just been lying this whole time. Like,
Wow. Quite hard to hear some of the words and make out some of the words there, so let's look at them. She is asked by the police guy, you don't want to believe he killed her, and Jenn replies, I want to believe she's still alive, that she got kidnapped, but that doesn't seem like the most. There's some crosstalk and an interruption, and then Jenn continues, I know, I just want to believe something else. I just want to believe she's still alive, she's out there. Interesting use of language there. 3 times she gives us the concept of wanting to believe she's still alive, want to believe something else, want to believe she's still alive are the 3 instances of that. And if you break down the literal meaning of wanting to believe, that means you don't believe. You want to believe. That's what you want to believe, but you do not believe that. Otherwise, you would say, I believe she's still alive. I believe something else. I believe she's still alive. And that's not what Jenn said. She wants to believe. So there's an indication there at this point. She knows this murder has happened because she cannot believe of anything else. The police guy says to her, did he tell you he fucked up? Did he tell you he fucked up? And Jenn's response is no, which would be a perfect answer. It would be a very honest and reliable answer if she left it at that. Did he tell you he effed up? And she says no. But she then continues to go extra. In fact, everything else here is extra. It does not reply to the question, did he tell you he effed up? And when someone does not reply to the question, when they go extra, then it's important for them to get that story out. For some reason, it might be a narrative that they want to set. It might be something they want to say in their defense and they haven't been asked about it and they really want to get it out. So let's look at the extra here. He acted so normal that day. He was like, I'm so impressed. We got out the house so early, like she did. She made great time. We had so much time to go to McDonald's, but she didn't want to. His story was just so, like, every detail was so believable. He's just been lying this whole time, and there's some really interesting words there. Again, I think red flags. I'm building up more data points that really concern me here. She says he acted so normal that day. She uses the word acted. So again, that's saying that she knows this was a sham. Not an indication right now that she's involved, but she knows this was a sham. She knows it. She's saying it with certainty that he acted. It wasn't he was so normal that day or he came across so normal that day. It's he acted so normal that day. And then she says this, his story was just so, like, every detail was so believable. He'd just been lying this whole now, every detail was so believable. We saw earlier she couldn't remember, in her words, whether she did or didn't see her daughter that morning, but she seems to have studied every detail of this story, and she relays it in great detail. Him being impressed, getting out the house early, making great time, so much time to go to McDonald's, but Madeline didn't want to. Every detail was so believable. Now, Is that the words of someone who just really remembers that story and really fell for that story? Or because every detail is so believable, would that be the words used by someone who helped concoct that story? Someone who thinks there's a murder that's happened and I need a really good cover story as to what's happened to make it appear that Madeline was alive and has been abducted. We need to get a story together in which every detail is believable. I can't prove that's what's going on, but that's what that language suggests to me. She's not talking about the fact that she fell for Stephan's story. She's talking about the fact it was a really good story, that every detail in that story was so believable. And then she says, he's just been lying this whole time. He's just been lying this whole time. There is certainty there. It's not, I feel like he's been lying this whole time. It is, he has just been lying this whole time. There is certainty there that Stephan killed Madeline. That certainty that he has been lying the whole time is at odds with that doubt she expressed earlier, that I just want to believe she's still alive, she's out there. Maybe that's why she can't believe that, because she is certain that Stephan has killed Madeline. Let's get some more from the police interrogation.
Give me your top 5 places where you think he.
In this area?
Doesn't have to be this area.
No, I know.
Anywhere you want.
I'm saying, in this area, I have no idea. Orlando, Kissimmee, no idea where he could have taken her. But his trip to Northport is weird as fuck. I feel like in Northport, he knows more people. He has more friends. There could be a place and somewhere there he could have stashed her. You guys said he went into a storage unit. That would be another place to look. But there's plenty of woods around his house. Around that exit is kind of secluded.
So we've got quite a bit there. The detective is asking her, do your top 5 places where you think he... Now, in this video that has been released by the police of this interrogation, every time the name Madeline is used, they kill the audio. They've redacted Madeline's name. And it's interesting that the first time we've heard it is the detective using Madeline's name. Jenn, the mother of Madeline, certainly in this answer, does not use Madeline's name once. In fact, she doesn't use anyone's name once. It's just her and him. So describe your top, or do your top 5 places where you think he put Madeline. And she says, in this area. And she's told it doesn't have to be in the area. She says, no, I know. I'm saying in this area, I have no idea. Orlando, Kissimmee, no idea where he could have taken her. But this trip to Northport is weird as fuck. So the first thing that she says when it's put to her, tell me the top 5 places where you think he's put Madeline, is in this area. Direct answer to the question, where do you think he's put Madeline, is in this area. It's the first thing she says. I mean, he says it doesn't have to be in this area, but she says, I'm saying in this area. So look, it wouldn't surprise me if she knew there that Madeline was around that area, because that's the first thing she does. It's a wide question, just top 5 places. This could be anywhere in the world. Yes, there's a reality to it, but her first instinct is to say in this area. She says, I have no idea, twice. She says, I have no idea. Orlando, Kissimmee, no idea where he could have taken her. Now, no idea is extremely unreliable. As you'll see here, she says, I have no idea where he could have taken her, and then gives some ideas. The storage shed, Northport, where the friends are, his parents' house. No idea. We often have ideas. In fact, very rarely do we have no ideas whatsoever. They might be outlandish, they might be weird, they might be unlikely, but we have ideas. No idea is made to sound like our minds are completely blank. Actually, what we would say if we do not know something, we'd say, I don't know. In general, when you hear I don't know, that's coming from a truthful person who does not know. But no idea is very often deceptive, and that's why I have no idea where he could have taken her, but his trip to Northport is weird as fuck. So therefore, you do have ideas. She goes on to say, I feel like in Northport, he knows more people, he has more friends, and she doesn't expand on that at all, does she? You know, it's quite a weird thought, actually, that you've killed a 13-year-old girl, and so you're going to go to Northport where you know people who are going to help you, I don't know, dispose of this 13-year-old girl, but she doesn't expand on that. It's just a fact. He knows more people and has more friends there, but she doesn't say why that is important. There could be a place, and somewhere there he could have stashed her. And stashed is quite a brutal word when you're talking about your 13-year-old daughter. Very few people would talk about their 13-year-old daughter, their murdered 13-year-old daughter, being stashed. Now, quite often I talk about guilty people downplaying the severity of language, not saying they've murdered someone, but they did it. This is definitely not downplaying the severity. This is fully aware of the severity of what happened. That stashed, the child has been stashed. She says, you guys went into a storage unit. That would be another place to look. Well, thanks for your help. I do not think the police would have thought of that without your help. So again, she's saying she has no idea, but now storage units is another place to look. She carries on, but there's lots of woods around House, and that exit is kind of secluded like. So there, again, this is all about going away to Northport, which is further away than the immediate area. So in this area, actually, she talks about things that are far away from this area. Is she trying to throw the police off the scent here? Or is she trying to be so wrong with what she's saying that people are going to go, oh, she must have known nothing about this because she said it wouldn't be in this area, it would be far away. And reality is that the child's body was in this area. I'm interested in why she's volunteered that there are plenty of woods around this house. She wasn't asked to go for wooded areas, it was just wherever. And yet she said there's plenty of woods around this house. Keep that one in mind because we are going to come back to that in a bit. There is something that Jennifer says in this interview that really makes me very conclusive about is she innocent or was she involved? And it's in this clip here.
I have no idea because roommates come in and out of the house at any given point in the morning and we don't know their schedules. They can come in at any time.
Did you spot it? We will look at that in the second half of this analysis. If you're enjoying this, the like button helps this get to more people. I know a lot of people are interested in the murder of Madeline Soto and Jenn's words. If you press that like button, this helps this get to people who are interested in that on this platform. You could share it with them as well. For every share I get, I am tremendously grateful. Thank you. If you want more episodes like this, you can press the subscribe button on YouTube or the follow button on Spotify. That means you will get the regular analysis as soon as it lands. But if you want to be even earlier than that, if you become a member of the channel on YouTube or a subscriber on Spotify, you will get the analysis episodes before anyone else. You get a chance to see them first, and you will also get bonus exclusive content too. And I'm always interested in your thoughts. Where are you at so far? Let me know in the comments if you can, or you can get in touch on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Let's go back to that interrogation and more from Jenn.
So I need you to sit down and think about it. Whether you need a minute, we're not in this room, whether you want to do it with us in this room, we need to leave here with an idea of where we can go look for. That is one thing we can agree on.
I've sent you the list of the stores that he may have stopped at and didn't stop at. The only outdoorsy places I can think of that we've ever gone to that he would know about would be Shingle Creek or Kissimmee Trail. I don't know if he knows where Lake Toho is, but that could be another option.
Because you think it's a wooded area? Because it's a place you guys have talked about together?
Because it's a wooded area with a lake, with gators. Like, we haven't discussed anything. This topic, I never asked him if he directly. I never thought he could have. I always assumed the best in him. But I didn't ask him directly. I didn't even suspect that until you guys showed me that picture upstairs. We're here. I don't know. I'm just thinking of, if I name places, it's going to be wooded areas that I can think of, but he hasn't told me anything. Like, he has not told me, or we haven't discussed.
Again, just so many red flags going on. She's told, whether you want to do it with us in the room, you need to leave here. We need to leave here with an idea of where we can go look for Madeline. And she starts with, I sent you the list of the stores that he may have stopped at, didn't stop at. So again, this is not very helpful. We need to leave here with an idea of where we can go look. And she's said, well, I've already said some things to you. I'm not going to volunteer. The first thing I'm not going to say is something new. And it doesn't seem like this is a priority as well, because the priority is not, I would look at these stores. It's, look how helpful I've been. I sent you the list of the stores he may have stopped at, didn't stop at. And even then, these are stores that he may have stopped at or didn't stop at. Look, is this a concerned mom? Is this someone going over and above, desperate to help the police find her child? Or is this someone that is trying to make themselves look good? Hey, I already sent you a list, and it's stores. You know, is that where you would find the body of a child? But that is the very first thing that she nominates. She then talks about the only outdoorsy places I can think of. So what we've got here is her talking about the outdoors again. She hasn't been asked indoors or outdoors, but she, for some reason, the thought process in her mind is that these guys are going to want to look at outdoorsy places. She said, she's told we need to leave here with an idea of where we can go look for Madeline. And her response is to list places that the two of them have talked about together or have knowledge of together. We need to leave here with an idea of where we can go look for Madeline. She says, the only outdoorsy places I can think of that we've ever gone to that he would know about would be Shingle Creek or Kissimmee Trail. I don't know if he knows where Lake Tahoe is. So in response to this question, and I think she realizes she's made a mistake here, in response to the question, give me places, she talks about places that she has discussed previously with Sterns. When she volunteers Lake Tahoe, the detective says, because you think it's a wooded area, because it's a place you guys have talked about together. She says, because it's a wooded area with a lake with gators like. Once again, what is going on here? So wooded area comes up so many times from her. Then she says, with a lake. So wooded area would be good place to hide someone, much better than an open area. A lake, again, if you're thinking about how to dispose of a body, a lake would be a possibility, and a lake with gators would be an even better possibility. But this is your own 13-year-old daughter. So what is the thought process that is bringing these thoughts to mind? Very much like the story of what happened that morning. Is this a discussion? Is this a discussion that has happened between Sterns and Soto, Jenn Soto and Sterns, talking here about how to hide the body? She seems to pick up on that because she goes, oh, but we haven't discussed anything. We haven't discussed anything. Well, that's blatantly untrue. You're in a relationship, you have discussed something, but you want to talk in this extreme, this 100% totality that we haven't discussed anything. Why? Because I think now she's panicking and thinking, have I let slip that I have discussed things with Stephan? Has this made it sound like I have discussed where Madeline should be hidden with Stephan? Which is why she goes to this ridiculous absolute of we haven't discussed anything. She then says, this topic, I never asked him. She mentions Madeline direct. That is just not smooth. There's some degree of panic going on there. So when she's talking about Northport, for example, she's very fluid there about the friends, about where his parents live, and so on. Here, when she's talking about how she has not had a discussion about where Madeline's body should go with Stephan Sterns, she gets very panicky and it's not smooth in delivery at all. She then goes on to say, I never thought he could have. I always assumed the best in him, but I didn't ask him directly. I didn't even suspect until you guys showed me that picture upstairs. I don't know. I'm just thinking of, if I name places, it's going to be wooded areas that I can think of. If I name places, it's going to be wooded areas that I can think of. Why is that? She doesn't say. Obviously, they are good places to hide people, but why is she going to talk about wooded places? And she says, I'm just thinking of it. The word just always puts me on alert for deception. She's thinking a hell of a lot more here. I think that what's going on is she cannot think beyond any of the places that she potentially has thought about with Sterns or discussed with Sterns. So I'm just thinking of, if I name places, it's going to be wooded areas I can think of. And then she qualifies it once more by getting across, he hasn't told me anything, like he has not told me, or we haven't discussed. It's a real priority for her to say that they haven't discussed this, which I think comes out in the fact that some of her words leaked out, that where she was going to, where she was thinking of, these places where Madeline could be, were places where that they had discussed previously. Now, that discussion could have been innocent. Shall we go there for a day out? Should we go there for a day out? But instead, I don't think the conversations around those were innocent. At the very beginning of that excerpt, I never thought he could have. And then she says, I always assumed the best in him. I always assumed the best in him. I want you to remember that. Here's some more from the interrogation.
192 is south of where that is.
And I
Not very likely that that's the route she went on foot or abducted, and that him driving around is somehow going to locate her.
and he did tell, I did question that. I was like, when I asked him where he searched and he said 182, I said, why? That's nowhere where she would be. And he didn't give me a clear answer, and I don't know why I didn't push it. I just thought he was being stupid and oblivious, because I don't see him as the smartest man. Like, I don't. I let him do what he does, but I don't trust a lot of his, is the word judgment? I'm not sure, but I just don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions sometimes. Like, he likes to act like the smartest man in the room, but I don't think he is.
Do what he does. Meaning?
I'm sorry?
You said, I let him do what he does.
Yeah.
What's that?
If he wants to just get up and go to the store, I'll ask where you're going, but I won't stop him. Just let him go on his way. I'll let him do what he wants to do.
You probably spotted something that we're going to deal with in there. The detective certainly did. But let's go with the first part first. It's put to her that when Stephan Sterns went on 192 South, it was not very likely that's where Madeline was. And Jenn's reply is, and he did tell, I did question that. Like, I was like, when I asked him where he searched and he said 192, I said, why? There's nowhere where she would be. And he didn't give me a clear answer. And I don't know why I didn't push it. I just thought he was being stupid and oblivious, because I don't see him as the smartest man. Like, I don't. So again, Jenn Soto is telling us she is a concerned mom for her daughter. She thought at this point her daughter had been abducted or maybe had run away. Her boyfriend goes searching somewhere she thinks is nowhere where Madeline would be at all. And what happens? Well, there's no anger expressed. There's no anger or anything towards Sterns for doing what she says is a stupid thing, and no push as to why did you do that whatsoever. She says that when she asked, he didn't give me a clear answer. Very interesting, because she doesn't say what the answer was. She just takes away this, she didn't get a clear answer. It's very, very vague there. Yeah, interesting as to why she didn't expand on that, potentially because it didn't happen. And she talks about, I don't see him as the smartest man. I don't. Now, remember I said victim was one of the possibilities that was happening here. Are those the words of a victim? I'm not so sure they are. She says, I let him do what he does, but I don't trust a lot of his. Is the word judgment? I'm not sure. But I just don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions sometimes. Like, he likes to act like the smartest man in the room, but I don't think he is. So, she says, I don't trust a lot of his judgment. So, very explicitly, she doesn't trust a lot of his judgment. And I don't trust that he makes the smartest decision sometimes, which is very much at odds with what she said earlier, which was, I always assumed the best in him. Well, no, you didn't. You don't trust his judgment, and you don't think he makes the smartest decisions, but you always assumed the best in him. I'm not so sure you did. Again, we've got this, I don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions. He likes to act like the smartest man in the room, but I don't think he is. Now, I've got some things going on there. Again, is that the word of a victim of someone? Is that how a victim would talk about the person victimizing them? I don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions. He likes to act like the smartest man in the room, but I don't think he is. There's another possibility going on here. At the time of this interview, Sterns has been arrested because he has been so dumb there's enough evidence to arrest him. Jenn might be getting a hard time from the police, but she's free to come and go as she wants. Is that what she's referring to there? Is it the fact that he's been really, really stupid and got himself arrested, and yet she is maybe thinks of herself as the smartest person in the room? Interesting. She just certainly doesn't trust him. She doesn't trust him. I just don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions. There's no trust there. And then it's that line, I let him do what he does. Stern has done some horrible, horrible things to her daughter, but she uses the phrase there, I let him do what he does. I'm going to talk some more about that because the detective says, does what he does, meaning, and Jenn says, I'm sorry. Now, this is a question to a question. Do what he does, meaning, and she says, I'm sorry. I think there she potentially realizes that she said something not very smart. I let him do what he does. And so she needs some thinking time to compile an answer in her head. She's not quite ready to talk yet, so she stalls for time by asking him to repeat what he says, pretending that she does not understand what is there. The detective says to her, you said, I let him do what he does. And she now qualifies this statement. She says, yeah, if he wants to just get up and go to the store, I'll ask, where are you going? But I won't stop him. I'll just let him go on his way. She mentioned store there. Second time she's mentioned stores and Stephan going to stores. There's some significance there in it. I do not know what it is, but there's some significance about stores that Stephan went to. Then she said, I'll ask where you're going, but I won't stop him. Just let him go his own way. I let him do what he wants to do. Now, let me ask you a question. Are these the words of a passive person, or are these the words of someone who's actually in control? Because she has to say that she won't stop him, she has to have the concept that she could stop him. To say that she lets him do what he wants to do, she has to have the concept that she has the power to not let him want to do, to say you cannot do that. So these to me are words of someone who feels like they are in control, with the ability to stop him if she wanted, and to let him or not let him do what he wants to do at the time. Certainly doesn't feel like the traumatic words that a victim would use. And she finishes it all off by repeating what I think is one of the most damning things that she said in this interrogation. I let him do what he wants to do. Here's some more.
I need you to tell me what you think happened to her.
I think he killed her that night.
How?
I don't know. Could it be possible that he drugged her? Could he have choked her? I just don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess or don't leave evidence, or I mean, was there a mess? Was there evidence? I haven't gone upstairs. I don't know what you guys have. I barely went into the house today, so I don't know what.
I need to know what you think happened.
I think he killed her.
How? You mentioned drugged her, you mentioned other things. Explain your reasoning behind those assumptions and we'll move forward day by day.
So he had access to benzos and I think Lunesta.
What are those? I'm not familiar with that.
Benzodiazepines are anxiety medications which relax you and can make you sleepy.
Okay.
And Lunesta, I think, is a sleeping medication, like for insomnia. So I don't know if it's possible he gave her something and she was drugged. In those photos that you showed me where you're saying she's dead, maybe she was drugged. But if she is dead and it was done upstairs, I could just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess.
The red flags just keep on coming. She's asked, I need you to tell me what you think happened to her. She says, I think he killed her that night. She's asked how. She says, I don't know. Could it be possible that he drugged her? Could he have choked her? I just don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess. So there, once more, are we getting insight into what actually happened? Because she's asking the question back here. She's asked, how does she think that Sterns killed Madeline? And she's going back with questions. Is it possible he drugged her? Is it possible he could have choked her? Is this her looking for information back from the detectives for them to reveal how much they know? I just don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess. Now, that's really interesting. That's not specific. I don't know how he would kill my daughter and didn't leave a mess would be very specific about the situation, but I don't know how you would kill someone and don't leave a mess. And what she said there is she knows that there is no mess, and I think she worries about that. She says, I don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess or don't leave evidence. And then she says, oh, I mean, was there a mess? Was there evidence? She said something with some certainty, and then she's tried to roll back on it and go, was there a mess? Was there evidence? I haven't gone upstairs. I don't know what you guys, I barely went into the house today, so I don't know what. I haven't gone upstairs. I don't know what. I barely went into the house today. I don't know what. She's really rolling back here because she has said that there was no mess and there was no evidence. In her head, at the very least, no mess and no evidence. She barely went into the house, by the way. No, I didn't go into the house, just barely went into the house. And here I think we've got an interesting thing. I don't know what you guys, I think that what she's getting to there, she's wanting information from the police. How much do they know? What are they thinking? What are they going to? She's asked for a little bit more detail, and she goes into the fact that this could be done, the drugging and the choking. And she goes very vague here. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe she was drugged. Just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess. So while she's kind of saying, I don't know if this is possible, she's been asked for details. What do you think's happened? And she doesn't say what she thinks happened. She's going into these, I don't know if this sort of stuff that I'm going to mention is possible. I have no awareness of whether these things are possible or not. It's very possible that he gave her something. You've outlined the drugs that he had. It's very possible he choked her because she's a 13-year-old girl and he's a grown-ass man. So these things are indeed possible. He gave her something. He choked her. There we have Stephan in there, but she uses that he distance from Stephan, that her is distance from Madeline as well. And then she says, I don't know how else you would kill someone. Once again, it's not kill my daughter or kill Madeline. It's I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess. That is said there with certainty. In her head, someone has been killed and it did not leave a mess. Now, why would that be? Right, we're going to come to the part now, which I think has got the most telling words from Jenn. Have a listen.
How do you think he got her out?
I have no idea because roommates come in and out of the house at any given point in the morning and we don't know their schedules. They can come in at any time. You guys showed me a picture, I think, of him or her in the car at 7:30 in the morning. My roommate left the house. She's the one who leaves the earliest. She left at 7:45. So what if he had waited a little longer? She would have caught him with carrying a body out of the house. How did he do that without being caught or seen? That's what I don't understand. Because did you guys check and see if any of my neighbors have ring cameras? Any? Nothing.
She's asked, how do you think he got her out? How do you think he got her out is the question. And she starts with, I have no idea. Yeah, so I've spoken about that before. It's just not a reliable indication of no knowledge whatsoever. And then again, we've got a big, wide question here. How do you think he got her out? We could have gone to anything from, potentially it was in a bag or, in a large crate or anything like that. That could have been one way of answering that question. One could have been that there was a cover of darkness, but she goes into the logistics of getting her out of the house at a certain point in the morning. She says, I have no idea. And then she goes on to logistics times. I don't know how my roommates are coming in and out of the house at any given point in the morning. So that's about time. We don't know their schedules. That's about time. They can come in at any time, obviously about time. There was a photo of her in the car, 7:30 in the morning. There's a time. The roommate who leaves the earliest, there's another time. She left at 7:45, another time. What if he had waited longer? Another definition of time. So she, when she's asked, how do you think he got her out, goes to the logistics, and it's well thought through in terms of the logistics, the time schedules, the gaps, the opportunities are all there. She appears to have given this at least some serious thought. So far, we have seen her words suggest she has knowledge of or has seriously considered where Madeline was, where the body was. By the way, she was found in a wooded area like Jenn suggested. How she was killed. Now, I don't know, I haven't seen anything official to say how Madeline was killed, but I have seen some reports that strangulation was involved. Once again, she was right with her guess. Her guess where Madeline is, wooded area. Guess how she was killed, choked. Where she was killed, you'll notice she talks about it happening upstairs. I don't know if that is known at this point, or I don't even know if it's known now, but she is certain that the killing took place upstairs. She's certain there was no mess left, no evidence around, it's certainly in her head, and she has knowledge, or she really has considered carefully how the body got out the house. My roommate left the house. She's the one who leaves earliest. She left at 7:45. Very detailed. My roommate left the house, so she knows she left the house that morning. She's the one who leaves earliest, so that shows an awareness of everyone else who was leaving the house. And she left at 7:45. Earlier, Jenn could not remember if she saw or heard Madeline that morning, but for some reason, she has really good recall of the movements of that roommate that morning that Madeline left the house. Again, we've got some of this brutal language. She would have caught him with a body, carrying a body out the house is what she says. Again, that's your 13-year-old daughter. Now, she's not softening what Stephan Sterns did. If he walked out there with a dead Madeline, it was a body. But that's some brutal language to be using. Some very, very savage language. And then here's the one that gets me. She's talking about the fact that there's some danger in trying to get the body out at that time in the morning because people are coming and going. They can come in at any time. And as she says, we don't know their schedules. However, if Stephan Sterns killed Madeline, and unknown to Jenn, Stephan was the one that had to get the body out of the house that morning, only Stephan needs to know their schedules for this to work, or to be aware of this to work. But Jenn says we don't know their schedules. In her whole thinking around the time that this would have to happen, Jenn says she needed to be aware of the schedules to make this happen. That, to me, is extremely damning and suggests that Jenn needed to think about their schedules that morning for some reason. And she finishes all that off with another stab at finding out what the investigators know, what evidence they have, asking about the Ring cameras, and asking 3 times, did you see if any of my neighbours have Ring cameras? Any? Nothing? She's getting nothing back from those guys. But listen, history is full of criminals who stick very close to the police and ask them a lot of questions about how the investigation is going. Here's the last part of this interrogation with Jenn.
Thought on what happened.
I think she was killed Sunday night into Monday morning. I'm thinking he carried her out of the house. I don't know how he didn't get caught by any of my roommates or no one heard.
What happened, she's asked. And she says, I think she was killed Sunday night into Monday morning. I'm thinking he carried her out of the house. So the think is, I think, when it comes to when. But what happened, I'm thinking he carried her out the house. And then she says, I don't know how he didn't get caught by any of my roommates or no one heard. So she's saying no one heard. And yet at the very beginning of all this, she says, I only saw him and I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know what that was. So someone did hear something, Jenn. It was you. You heard something in the kitchen. As always, when I do this, it's always really interesting to look and see what's missing in the words. What would you expect to be there if this was a real mother in a lot of distress and anxious to find out what happened to her daughter? Well, missing, regret, No regret for letting Stephan do what he does, or Stephan do what he does. No regret for letting this man into life. No regret for why did you not push him, or no regret for not being angry. Really no anger at all, by the way. If you notice, there is no anger towards Stephan. There's that disdain. He's not the smartest man in the room, but there is no anger. There's no disgust about the guy either, and what he has done is disgusting, but she doesn't express any disgust. And in everything we looked at, there is no desire for justice for what happened to Madeline at all. So what are my conclusions? Guys, there are too many indicators that she has knowledge of the killing for me to acknowledge that she could be completely unaware. No, she had knowledge of the killing. And to me, especially indicators that she was involved in the cover-up. She seems to have a lot of information about how the body got out the house, and a lot of information about where the body was, and the considerations that took place about how to get the body out of the house, and considerations around where to leave the body. Far too many of them for me to say she comes across as completely innocent. There's nothing here to see. There were a few slips where she let stuff out, and she is trying to create a bit of distance between herself and Sterns. I've got some questions for you though. If she knew, how deeply was she involved? Was she involved in the murder? Was she involved in planning the murder? I didn't quite see that in her words, but what do you think in what we saw? I certainly saw words that suggested she was very, very close to the cover-up for the murder at all. So is she covering up for Stephan Sterns? And by the way, another question is, was she helpful to the police, or was she going as far as to be obstructive? We would expect a concerned mom whose 13-year-old daughter is missing, presumed murdered, to be bombarding the police with everything they could with care for her daughter. But was she doing that? Was she really helping the police? Or was she being more obstructive, telling them to go and look in Northport? Interesting one. Do let me know in the comments if you can on that one, or you can get in touch on social media, because all the links for that are in the show notes. You can subscribe to this channel if you want to get new episodes when they launch, or you can become a member of the channel on YouTube, a subscriber on Spotify. You will get them before anyone else, and you'll get exclusive content too. Please do share this with anyone. I know a lot of people are interested in missing person cases. A lot of people are interested in this Jenn Soto case as well. And if you can't do any of those, if you press the like button, that helps this get out to more people. So if you do any of those things, thank you very much. Listen, neveratruerword.com is the website where you will find more analysis videos, more podcasts as well. You can sign up for the monthly newsletter there as well if you want to get more tips on how to understand what it is that people are really saying, how to decode the words of people all around you in your life, or maybe people in the news like Jenn Soto. And you can get all the links to social media there as well. neveratruerword.com. And we will see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.